On March 8th, le 8 mars in France, it's la Journée internationale des droits des femmes. La Journée internationale des droits des femmes. And I thought you would like to have some of the French point of view. So today there is no learning goal really. I wanted to share with you interesting resources so you could discover new feminist resources in French to improve your French and have some fun on these topics. As usual, you can download the full lesson on commeunefrançaise.com on the blog. Especially today, you will find all the links to the resources mentioned here on the lesson. It's very easy to get to the lesson. Just click on the link somewhere here or below in the comment area. If you're watching this on Facebook, you go to the blog post and you can download the full PDF for free by leaving your first name and email. Bonjour, c'est Géraldine. Bienvenue sur Comme une Française. Allez, c'est parti. Before we start, this is the second part of my lesson from last year about French feminist books. You can get to this lesson by just clicking on the link somewhere around this video. Check it out for shorter, lighter ideas for Francophone books about feminisms, including comic books in French. Today, I picked up different formats of Francophone resources for you, not just books. You will have podcasts, blogs, but also short books and longer books that go into details. Some even have a translation in English so you can enjoy them even if your French is not good enough to read a full book in French. The first resource I wanted to share with you today is about la charge mentale. La charge mentale is the mental load that women experience very usually in a couple and in society as well. So this is the topic of a very, very famous online blog post, but mostly a comic, which is called Fallait demander. Fallait demander by Emma. Fallait demander, you should have asked in English. By the way, it's been translated in English as well, so you can read You Should Have Asked on online as well. You will find the link below the video on the blog post. So, this was le point de départ, the starting point of a huge conversation in society in France. And this was in May 2017, so it's not new. But it was such a starting point that I wanted to start with that as well today. So check it out. It's extremely interesting. It was published as well, but you can absolutely read it for free online by following the link on Emma's blog. The second resource for today is a book. Yes, I love books. So it's this one. Can you see it? It's called Libéré. That's the title. That's the short title. Libéré. So it means freed in French. Libéré. The full title is Le combat féministe se gagne devant le panier de linge sale. Le combat féministe se gagne devant le panier de linge sale. It means the feminist fight is won in front of the dirty laundry basket, something like that. And it's a book by Titu Lecoq. So she wrote this book, which is pretty short. It's around 200 pages. And I read it in 2 days, honestly, and I had a mini breakdown in the middle, because you realize so many things. It's a fantastic book. It's very recent. When was that? I don't know. I think it might have been this year. And it's a fantastic book because it's very down-to-earth ideas about everyday life. You have practical advice, and it's all about the couple's dynamics. She talks a lot about what is expected of us women and what to do and what do we put on ourselves. And that's extremely interesting, I have to say. And this is why I had kind of a mini breakdown, because I realized so many things. And why do women think this way? Why do we think this way at home? And it was interesting, I think, for you. And I thought about you when I read it as well, because it's interesting to have the French point of view on recent events as well that we saw and social behaviors that we also saw online everywhere. And this book was a big breakthrough. My friends have been borrowing it since I bought it. And I highly recommend it because it's very down to earth compared to other resources I'm going to mention after that. And it's extremely easy to read. The French is good. It's most spoken French. It's not as journalistic as we'll see later, but a very, very nice book, very modern. And it's a very good way to have a French point of view on French society inside the house. So check it out. Libérée by Titu Lecoq. The third resource is a blog. I think I'm kind of the last woman in France to find out about it. I had heard about it before, but I never went on it until recently. And it's a blog called Crêpe Georgette. Crêpe Georgette. So it's a blog written by a feminist who's been a feminist for over 20 years. She's very brilliant, and she's called Valérie Ray-Robert. Valérie Ray-Robert. You can follow her on Twitter at Valérie CG. What I love about this blog is that it's extremely deep and documented, and you have very interesting and detailed posts about French news. And for me, that's a reference when I don't really understand a topic, especially in French news. I go there and I read what she said, and I'm like, that's very clever, because she gives lots of extra links to other things, and it's very intelligent, I have to say, and very refreshing. So if you want to check a blog and have a reference of a feminist point of view on recent news, especially right now, check her blog posts and you will have this point of view. You might agree or not with it, it's not a matter, but it's very documented and it's extremely interesting. So check Crêpe Georgette, it's a blog. And here comes the most advanced resource I have for today, which even for me is advanced. So that's the book by Valérie from Crêpe Georgette. It's that. Yeah, it's very tough. It's called Une culture du viol à la française. Une culture du viol à la française. So you can see Valérie Ray-Robert. I just told you about her. And the subtitle is written on the back. It's Du troussage de domestique à la liberté d'importuner. Du troussage de domestique à la liberté d'importuner. Troussage de domestique roughly means rape your maid. Yeah. And the liberté d'importuner is the freedom to go and flirt in a way. And this was taken from recent interviews by some very famous French women, which I don't agree with. And she wants to give the insight on the French society's tradition of kind of being very sexist. I have to be honest here, and a friend of mine told me not to tell you, but I think it's honest to tell you that, is that it was out last week. I bought it on Saturday and I haven't had any time to finish it yet. Why? Because it's extremely good. It's very, very dense. And I don't want to rush it because it's so good. So I thought I could finish it, but I think I know what she wants to go to. So I don't have any doubt it's going to be a bad book. Just like at page 50. And so the book is based on the research in the US, because this is where feminist research started. Didn't start in France, and how it relates to French society and history. This is why it's so interesting for you if you're interested in this topic. So again, this is very advanced French on very advanced topics. I hope it gets translated because it's a great book. But again, you can read it only if you have an advanced level of French, because it's extremely good, but the words are very precise and it can be difficult to read. Now, let's get to something lighter. La Poudre. La Poudre is a podcast. Again, I think I'm kind of the last woman in France to find out about it. I find out about it, I think, last month. And I love it, obviously. It's a podcast created by Lorraine Bastide. Lorraine Bastide, who used to be a journalist for Elle. And it's a podcast where she interviews French women, but not only, also foreign women as well. And it's a fantastic way to hear about great women. They might not be French, they might not be even Francophones. Some of her interviews are in English. I don't necessarily recommend you listen to American or British women, because you can hear them in English in your country. But for French women and foreign other women that you never heard about, it's a fantastic way to hear about them. It's a podcast of interviews, so it's easy to listen to. The French is fun. They speak in everyday spoken French, so it's a good practice for you. The two I really liked recently, I haven't heard about all of them yet, but it was Pénélope Bagieux. Pénélope Bagieux, you might know her. She's a very, 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 very famous comic book author in France. She wrote Les Culottés. Les Culottés, it's brazen in English if you want to buy it. It's a great thing. And I talked about it in last year's lesson about feminism and books about feminism, because you have 2 volumes and I have them and I show them to you. The second one is Aïssa Maïga. Aïssa Maïga is a French actress who happens to be black, and this is what we're going to talk about afterwards. And she played in lots of French movies, so you will see her in lots of French movies in France, but here she tells her story. A great podcast. So let's talk about Aïssa Maïga now. She was at the start of a book called Noir n'est pas mon métier. Noir n'est pas mon métier. Black is not my job. And again, because feminism is just not about white women, it's about everybody. It was so interesting to have her point of view on that. And it's a book that was made by 16 black actresses. And it talks about stereotypes and racism and diversity in French cinema. So you have their experience about French cinema. And again, you can see the French point of view on sexism, etc. And it's so good. I have to be honest with you again. I heard about it last week. So I booked the book at the public library and I didn't get it yet. So I haven't read it, but it seems fantastic. I've heard lots of good things about it. And I didn't want to wait another year to tell you about it. So check it out and maybe we can share experience about it as soon as we have read it. But again, it's a short book. It's 16 testimonies about what it is to be black in French cinema. And it seems fantastic. So let me know if you read it. We can share experiences. Noir n'est pas mon métier. Okay, modern resources are great. But the more I read about feminism, especially in the US and the UK, I hear a lot about Simone de Beauvoir, who was kind of one of the starting points of feminism because she is one of the icons, especially one of the French icons. So if you have the opportunity, the time, and the curiosity to go back to the basics, Simone de Beauvoir is your woman. So Simone de Beauvoir is an intellectual from the 60s, 70s, and she's super famous because she wrote Le Deuxième Sexe. Le Deuxième Sexe is one of the first feminist manifesto ever, in modern society. And what's so interesting about her is not necessarily her novels, it's more her letters and her personal books, which was a big revelation for me as a teenager. And this is her first memoir, and it's called Mémoire d'une jeune fille rangée. I already talked about this one. I don't want to go back to this too much, but if you're into French literature, read her. It's good. And her memoir, everything, there are lots of tomes. I have all of them at home. One of them is books about letters. She wrote lots of letters to her lovers, to her friends, during the war, after the war, about many, many topics. And one I like in particular, which is one of my favorite books ever, is a book called Lettres à Nelson Algren. Lettres à Nelson Algren. It's not for everybody, okay? Don't read it if you don't care about it or to practice your French. What I love about this book as a feminist is that by reading these letters, I realized that you could be feminist and wear lipstick and want to feel pretty, etc. And I love the difference between what she was saying and what she was living in her real life, personal life. And it's not a difference, it's more that it shows that you can be the same person and do that. And in these letters, she's very true, and it's a fantastic book. So if you're interested in letters, if you're interested in Simone de Beauvoir, check this out. Very few people have read it. I did, I love it, and we can share experience on that. One of the big revelations for me in 2018 was reading a lot about World War II and women's role in it. And one of the most impactful books written by French people that I read last year was this one. It's Dialogue. It's by Geneviève de Gaulle-Antonios et Germaine Tillion. Dialogue de Geneviève de Gaulle-Antonios et Germaine Tillion. These women are what we call des résistantes. Des résistantes. So they were part of la résistance. And they met in the deportation camp one of them called Ravensbrück. Okay, sorry if I don't speak German. Ravensbrück. And they were in prison because they were résistantes. And I don't think it's a feminist book, but it's more about what women can do. And it was such a powerful read that I thought I would recommend it to you today because it's 150 pages. I highlighted lots of things in it because it was so good. And you can see what 20-year-olds can do because Geneviève was 20 when she was in prison there. And as soon as you read this book, you want to read more. And we can talk about it if you're interested in the comments, because it was the open door for me to many, many other topics about World War II and women especially. So check it out if you're interested in the war and what women did during it. And it's a short book. That's a dialogue, so they talk to each other. So it's not very long. It's very down to earth, and you will be amazed and humbled by their stories. Now let's go back to something a bit more light. It's a Twitter account that's called Écoutez-les. Écoutez-les, it means listen to them. And it's a Twitter account that gives you one recommendation of feminist podcasts every day in French. Okay? So if you don't know where to start, you just want ideas, you don't have the time to commit to a book, just follow this Twitter account and you will have ideas every day. It's a very fun way to discover new people and new things. So check it out. And it's made by someone I really like online as well called Dr. Queen. And she's a doctor on Twitter. And she shares lots of stories about what it is to be a doctor, which I am absolutely not. So I love hearing about her. She's a fantastic person. And she created this. So check it out. Écoutez-les on Twitter. And the last resource is a resource of resources, actually. It's called Books by Women. Yeah, it's an English name. Books by Women. And it's a mailing list that sends you twice a month book recommendations of books written by women. So the selection criteria is that it has to be translated into French, but they're not necessarily French books. So I thought it's interesting for you as well, because maybe you can read it in English or in German or the language of the book itself. And it's less pressure than having to read something in French. So it's lots of good ideas from all over the world, which is something I really like, because I also like to open my mind to other point of views. This is what the newsletter looks like. So you can see on the screen, and you can subscribe for free and unsubscribe anytime. It's a very, very nice resource. And this is where I have found lots of ideas of future books to read. That's it for today. Et toi, which one of these resources are you most curious about? Let me know. Is it one of the podcasts or a book or the Twitter account or the blog or a topic in particular you would love to have the French point of view on? It's a very interesting topic, so let me know in the comments. Also, if you have recommendations of books or resources about feminism, especially if you're your own country, that would be fantastic. So please share it in the comments so we can share with the community. If you liked this lesson, please share it with a Francophile friend. That's a fantastic way to support my free work on YouTube and on Comme une Française. Please share it with your friends by adding a little thumb up on YouTube, by subscribing to the YouTube channel so you don't miss anything, or by sharing it on Facebook, on Twitter, by email, or telling your French class about it. If you want more spoken French, you can subscribe to my 10-day everyday French crash course. It's a completely free mini course by email to double your Frenchness in just 10 days. How to get it for free? Go to commeunefrançaise.com and subscribe. Just leave your first name and email and you will get lesson 1 immediately. Again, it's free. I wish you a good day, une bonne journée, une bonne soirée maybe, or une bonne nuit if you're going to bed, and I will see you next time. Allez, salut!